Hey guys, it's Ben the Coin Geek at Old Pueblo Coin. Thanks for joining me today. I want you to share this video with some friends. This is what makes coin collecting so much fun. And also, this is one of the reasons why people collect coins. We're going to look at something here that looks kind of innocuous, very innocuous actually, and tell a little story along the way. For those of you who are new to coin collecting, of course, there's a lot to be said about errors. There's a lot to be said about counterfeits and what's going on in the marketplace. But the old stories sometimes are the best stories. We're going to look at some nickels here, and there's some things that are a little bit different about these nickels. You'll see that weighs 4.85 grams. And then this guy here, you can tell is a little bit different looking because the one on the right is the silver war nickel, made from halfway through 42 to 45. Coming in at 4.7. And then I've got this last nickel here, which is 5 1/4, 5.27. And ain't that, that's, for those of you who are thinking, man, someone was just working a little bit heavier on the scale the other day, cutting some stuff up a little bit thick. What we're going to talk about today is what's called a Henning counterfeit. And a Henning counterfeit, believe it or not, is one of the best stories there is, I think, in numismatics, because you're talking about a guy who was counterfeiting nickels in the 1950s. And oh, by the way, he had counterfeited $5 bills in the 1930s, got busted, spent 3 years in prison, and then came out. And 20 years later is like, yeah, I'm going to try this again, but with nickels. Did any of you seen Office Space? We're just rounding this off to the nearest half of a fraction of a penny, and it's going to be okay. Well, one of the things here that you're going to see right away on this coin is we got 1944. Here's an old 39. That's the second year of issue. Here's a 42. That's silver. And one of the things that you'll notice is that the 44 and the 42 should both be silver coins. And of course, just looking at the color differential, this is the thing that first got him in trouble, right? He was making them dated 44. And originally, when he first went in, he deposited a lot of nickels in his account, and they were all 44s. And, you know, that is something that actually caught the attention of the attendee at the bank. And the first suspicion arose almost right away. After that, he started to circulate the coin. So here you'll see the second problem he had with his coin, which was there's no mint mark. So for those of you who are familiar with the nickel series, the mint marks on these guys should be right there by the Monticello. I did not grab one with the mint mark. That's a Philly. But during the silver series, your World War II series, that mint mark's above Monticello. And here, you got nothing. Nada. So this is just like one of the craziest things. These are actually very collectible coins, these counterfeit nickels. And you can see, like, a lot of people would probably never look at a nickel. You just look at it, it would probably just pass for a regular nickel for almost any of us if we just looked at them. Because who looks at nickels? But even back then, I mean, it might cost you, 20 cents for a loaf of bread, but who's going to be looking at their nickels that closely? And so he actually started spending the coins after that. There's like one major tell that they get to on these coins, other than the fact that it's on the wrong metal. And by the way, there's no mint mark where there should be one. You look at the R in pluribus, and you see that R has this big major defect in it right at the left leg of the R. That's very consistent with a bunch of them. Also, you see this like die crack running up from the top of Monticello up to the US in pluribus. And on top of that, let's just talk a little bit about when they're doing a counterfeit dies, and what they do is they cast them, and you have a lot of detail gets lost in general. So this is actually a look that you will see on lots of counterfeit coins, where you will see the detail just kind of gets faded away a little bit. Now, he actually was making dies for other coins besides nickels, but apparently he decided it was just becoming too much work to try to make the silver ones as well. he actually spent almost $7,000 in materials. He was an engineer, and so he decided to use his engineering powers for good. And so he makes these nickels. And so, by the way, the alloys are actually off a little bit as well. So the normal nickel, this has about 5% more nickel, pardon me, 5% more copper in it than a normal nickel would. And just the fact that it weighs, almost 10% more, about 10% more than a normal nickel, is also kind of funny. So we're talking about something that happened in the mid-50s. By the time this all rolls around, you're talking about 54. There was a report from a local coin club that noticed it before anyone else in October of 1954. A guy named Harmon Rogers kind of informed the people around him that, hey, these counterfeit nickels, this is not real. And eventually the Secret Service gets involved. And in August of 1955, so about a year later, he gets arrested after he had already been on the lam for a bit. So he actually ran. He left the Jersey area where his operation was out of a fake toy factory and went to Ohio. And but he got caught over there. They figured out who it was. He actually dumped $5,000 and then I think $10,000 in face value coinage into the rivers. And so they actually drug up a lot of the coins after, I guess, he confessed to it. He was sentenced in January of 56, so they, I guess justice used to work a little swifter back then. But the other thing that's really interesting about this is, I think the thing that fascinated me the most about this story is that the fake nickels that were thrown into the river were pulled up out of the river, and eventually they were reprocessed and made into real nickels. They got them smelted and reworked. Most of the information from this story actually comes from the really good Winston Zach book called Bad Metals, which is all about counterfeiting. And just so you know, on this particular coin and story, the story of Francis Leroy Henning, two-time loser. Love the edit there. There's that big R. They actually collect these there are people who collect counterfeits, and this is one of the most popular ones because it actually has the story. And a lot of counterfeiters, we don't know the full story, but people actually collect them by different obverse and reverse dies in die states, which of course is kind of fascinating. He's got a whole chart here. And also he references lots of times the original little pamphlet on this, the Counterfeit 1944 Jefferson nickel by Dwight Stuckey. Also, just so you know, 44 was the main year, and after that he had made a few other years. I think those other years, what were they? 39, 46, and 47. So he made a few different dates on them. Anyways, let me know if you guys have known this story, knew about the story. But if you didn't know about the story about the counterfeit nickels that were circulating, then share this with a friend who needs to know the story about a counterfeit nickel, which is, by the way, now very collectible. People will collect the Henning nickels, and they trade for hundreds of dollars. So there you go, which is more than what you can say for the other ones that are here in the video. But thanks so much for watching, guys. I'm Ben the Coin Geek. You can subscribe by clicking on the owl button in the corner and watch more videos on the right side of the screen. Thanks.